that there's also AFCON coming in 2027. Those are monies. We're talking about money. Now, government is faced with major financial constraints in a tough economy. Now, where are we going to go? How can we do it now? That means that if the 2026 elections are to be in place, we have to have valid national IDs. Now, as we speak now, all the people who were issued the first bunch of national ID issuement, which was in 2013, 2014, their IDs would be expiring in 2024 in August. Now, can they get the money, finish this exercise within 2 years, considering a lot of work we're having on our disposal? And that would be the big question. Now, there could be a looming setback for the 2026 general election as the National Identification and Registration Authority NIRA fails to secure 666 billion. What are we going to do now? Today, I'm really honored to be joined by one of our great friends, and that is Honorable Kimberly Frego. That is the Member of Parliament, Kasese Municipality, and also one of the men and the brains that sits on the ICT committee in the Parliament. And we're going to be casting more light into this. Honorable, good morning and welcome on Bethany.
Good morning.
Yes, Honorable. You sit on the ICT
yes, please.
committee.
Yes, please.
And you are in government. There are so many needs, major issues. You see, Honorable, we cannot forego these. The first one is the elections, which is slated for 2026. And that one, it has to be there. They need 1.3 trillion. The second one is the processing and the printing of the national IDs. Yes. These guys, NIRA, needs 666 billion. Now, besides that, we have the NAM conferences, which are happening 2 months from now. Uganda is hosting over 100 countries coming to Uganda in these conferences. They also need money to arrange. Recently, government dispatched something like 80 billions to Speak Resort to revamp that place and do stuff to prepare well. But not only that, AFCON is also 2027. Now, these are in the space of 2-3 years. All this money, which needs close to 4 billion, trillions, where is it going to come from? What do you think are we able to tackle, or is government able to handle these issues?
Thank you very much. I'm called Kimberly Frego.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Member of Parliament for Kasese Municipality, and I serve on 3 committees of Parliament. One is the ICT committee.
Yes, sir.
Another one, I'm on Appointments Committee of Parliament.
Wow.
The third one is I'm a member on committee for COSASE. So, and these are now issues concerning what do we need to do versus what is our capacity to finance
yes, sir.
Some of these activities. First of all, I thank you for hosting me, and these are issues that are of national importance in my view. They are statutory activities we can't dodge because they are constitutional. For example, it's a requirement that every 5 years we need to have an election. Now that one is a constitutional requirement, and any government, if it is seen to be democratic, it must do that. Then the issues of national IDs is part of every citizen identity. It's also a requirement that you should have a valid national ID. When it expires and you keep with it, that becomes something which is not legally right. These other activities like AFCON, hosting this African Cup of Nations 2027, to us is a big blessing to this country. And it gives us a big advantage. It's something that happens once in a while. So I look at all these as the necessities in my view. But necessities versus the capacity to fund them. Because when you talk about election, national general election, which would require like 1.3 trillion, that's a huge expenditure. When we talk about this renewal of IDs for all the citizens, which is going to take about 666 billion, another huge expenditure. So between January 2024 and end of 2025, we should have gathered this money, close to 2 trillion. Now, we ran a budget of around 54 trillion as a nation. Remember that budget has budget support, has collections from URI. But to tell you the truth, the pressures we go through in realigning our budget line to fit within the 54 trillion is too big, because you look at the pressures, the needs that would require to be financed versus the 54 trillion. We leave very many items which we call unfunded priorities. It's a priority, but it's unfunded. So when you look at the lineup of unfunded priorities versus what we fund, we end up leaving very many important items that should be included in the national budget.
Yes,
now, here comes another challenge. Even when we have that 54 trillion to handle many things and leaving out many things, when you bring in these two other items that will again need 2 trillion, it becomes a very big budget challenge before us. Yet, they are necessities. The other one may be priorities, but this is now a necessity. With or without it, the country can't move. So, once you did observe, you are right. We need these things. We need these items funded. Now, me as a national leader, what can I advise? Is that we, Minister of Finance, should start quick engagement with all possible funders, leave alone the other funders that have been funding for budget support. They need now to start engaging.
Domestic funders?
No. Domestic funding is from URI collections. These are external funders, is what I'm talking about, that we refer to as people who give what we call budget support. For what we collect internally from URI collections is not always matching with what we can finance during a subsequent financial year. So what we normally get what we call budget support from external funders, either in form of grants or in form of loans. So in my view is that Ministry of Finance should foresee this early. And the good thing is that we are about to start the budgeting process. The budgeting process starts with the coming up with a budget framework paper. Which budget framework paper, as Parliament, we are going to start discussing different budget framework papers for different ministries. And this is the time to capture this, because it will appear in the budget of 2024-2025. The budget that we are running 2022-23-24 is closing June 2024. The budgeting the process we are now going to kickstart is going to look at 2024-2025. Now, the budget framework paper now, in my view, should capture these as necessities which we can't dodge. Because in the current budget, we can't extract this money. I don't know whether you are getting me.
I get it.
But when you look at the Electoral Commission roadmap, its activities that will lead to 2026 general election are beginning. I think they are already ongoing. You will hear updating of registers. I just imagine I need to scrutinize the national budget properly. There must already be provision for some of the processes that are supposed to be undertaken that will lead to general election 2026.
Can we have a supplementary budget?
We can have a supplementary budget because in our Budget Act there is that provision where we can have a supplementary budget. Now we are saying the Ministry of Finance should now consider if activities that are leading to general election require more extra fund or extra funding in the current budget, a supplementary budget will be required. If it requires money for next financial year, then all this one should be captured so that it is either in the form of a budget for next financial year or being captured as part of the supplementary budget for the running financial year.
Can't we have a general election without national IDs? Because already people are registered. Maybe I would consider the new voters. We're talking about people now who are in senior 4 now. Students who are sitting senior 4 now. By 2026, there will be eligible voters. Maybe those ones, they might be denied a chance, but can't we use our voter registers?
But still, you would be conflicting with the law. Every Ugandan who has clocked 18 years is eligible voter.
Yes, yes.
So you deny such a person from voting, you are denying somebody his right or her right. So that's why my view is that something must be done. Otherwise, even somebody who can even can go to court to challenge the result of an election, where will say some people were not supposed to vote, yet they are eligible voters. According to the Constitution of Uganda, 18 years and above, you are supposed to exercise your right, your democratic right to cast a vote. So in my view, this matter doesn't require gambling. It just requires identifying a source of funding, and we clear both. Because the issue of IDs, even for those IDs that are going to expire by January, you are talking about January? Is it
August?
August 2024. So long as this ID has expired, it's not a valid ID. So the systems that should be able to capture that information, so that when the ID, they should look at how to do it at minimum cost possible. By the way, there's also a challenge. Whenever there is such a national activity, the people involved, sometimes they take advantage of exaggerating costs. That one you should not also leave it hanging. For us as Parliament, apart from doing legislation work, we do oversight work. But what I have observed, for example, me, I'm a member of COSASE.
Yes.
When we are doing examination of audit reports, we get many costs exaggerated. Work that is supposed to be done by, say, 1 billion, it is exaggerated, it is costed like 3 billion. Another thing we should do is, even when we are talking about these huge costs of trillions, we need to examine these costs. Do pre-audit of these costs. Pre-audit is where, before you spend, do some elementary audit. Because when you audit after, it's too late.
It's too late, of course.
You only now come up with the audit queries, money were being misused. But these things require pre-audit. Office of the Auditor General should come in, do pre-audit of these costs from Electoral Commission and from the NIRA guys. You may find that this cost, which is totally 2 trillion, can be reduced somehow. Because somehow, these budgets are made with exaggerations. That one, it is glaring truth. What we see whenever we examine the audit reports shows that there are always exaggerations. That should also be a strategy, in my view. Then after minimizing the costs so that these activities are all handled, then also in the real activities, we should see what is it that we can do minus such activities that can be postponed. But we score both. We get an election done, and we also have these IDs renewed. Why renewed? And update people in the register, those who have clocked 18 years, so that people exercise their democratic right to vote.
How about, Honorable, another approach of voting, the one which you guys have talked about, people lining in the backs of their candidates? If the worst comes to the worst, that we can't find any money to renew the national IDs, now using the expired IDs and illegality, so can we embark on the other method of having candidates standing there and people lining in the back, although it's very, very hectic because a person of like the president, standing him at the all day, and
that wouldn't be bad, but I wouldn't encourage it personally. You can do it on these local council elections lining up, but look at national elections. Member of Parliament, talk about the presidency.
Yes. So some candidates,
somebody can be intimidated. There's some level of intimidation in it. Some people will be deployed to go and spy on who has lined up behind which some other candidate. And it creates conflict.
Yet a ballot is supposed to be a secret ballot.
Secret ballot is good in a way that you vote from your heart, not from being influenced, not out of fear. So, and that minimizes conflicts. But you can imagine where you are standing. Do you know that there are instances where even a wife cannot vote for you?
Exactly.
Now, if it was standing behind you, can't it cause domestic violence?
Of course, the home is no more now.
A wife will know that this husband of mine is not worth being a leader.
I know.
She will keep it to him herself. Now, because she has that democratic right to elect a leader of her choice, secretly she will give a vote to somebody else because her consciousness tells her you are not worth a leader.
Yes, you're my husband, but to be honest,
you can't lead people. There are people who are in marriages because they committed themselves. But if you give them option, they would say this is not a good marriage because the character of the person I'm with is not worth being a leader.
If this person is like this,
so you will go secretly, she will go secretly and vote against you. Because he knows from her heart you are not worth a leader. Now, if it is this business of lining up, the next days the guy will submit divorce documents to say you are not worth being a wife because you voted against him. So this lining up is not good because it brings in conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, which is not good. So I wouldn't buy that idea.
Yes.
But back to what we are talking about, my view is that we need an election. It's a constitutional requirement. These IDs should be worked on. It's also a constitutional requirement. Now, the figures, because they have a budget implication, should be audited. And the audit should be pre-audit. So that they are revised downwards. The figures should match with the real costs, not exaggerated costs. That is one. Number two, the budgeting and planning processes should capture this at framework paper and Ministry of Finance, given our cash flows according to our collections by URA, should start devising means. If we can't fit within our budget because this is an extra cost that is not the normal cost in our normal budgeting, let the funding sources be identified and be negotiated in time, either in form of loan or in form of grants. Yes.
Wow. For those who've just joined in with Honorable Kambale Frego from the Kasese municipality, and we're casting light on the ability of government to handle major financial constraints that are laying before them, and yet government is out of time. Now, in January 2024, Uganda is hosting what we call the 19th summit of the Non-Aligned Movement Conference, that is NAM, who is going to be here. Of course, it's going to have so many countries, and this is costing money to arrange or to, host these conferences. But away from that, government is also having the NIRA issue. NIRA is also lying behind schedule for the national ID renewal after them saying that we need an amount of 666 billion shillings to this exercise. This exercise was slated to be June and August this very year, but it didn't happen. That means they are lying behind schedule. So can they pull off this, or what we are seeing here is that we are looming setback for the 2026 general election? Now, if nothing is done, there's going to be a very, very great impact. The general elections are slated to be 2026. Are we going to vote with valid IDs, or are we going to vote with invalid IDs? Now, Mr. Honorable Frego here is a member of Parliament of Kosasi, but also in the ICT, he sits there, and government's also assured committees. So he's a man with experience, and there we are asking questions. Now, if I'm to break down, Honorable, the 666 billion, this very time, 666 billion was what government needed, or NIRA needed, to have the exercise take place. Now, if we are to break down, NIRA is going to need a new registration system, which calls for 235 billion.
200 what?
35 billion. The new registration system, which they're going to use. Now, away from that, the entire man's registration will require 370 billion. Entire man's registration requires 370 billion shillings. That makes it a total of 666 billion. So now, Honorable, I think now you're satisfied. They're giving you the breakdown which you wanted. Now, the new registration system, 235 billion. Now, the entire mass registration, 370 billion.
And that's what I was telling you. That these costs they have compiled require pre-audit.
Pre-audit.
Pre-audit means before spending, let's first check.
Who does the audit?
No. Government can it. This is government money. Audit. We have what we call. We have an institution called Internal Auditor General.
Won't they, Mr. John
Mwanga?
Yes.
That is external auditor. But we also have
the internal.
No. Mwanga is the overall one who does post audit, auditor general. But there's also internal auditors general.
Oh, okay.
Internal auditor general is under Ministry of Finance. Mwanga is under Parliament. Okay. So internal auditor general gives internal audit services. And part of internal audit services, if assigned, is doing pre-audit work.
Okay.
Audit before expenditure.
Wow.
Post-audit is audit after expenditure. Yes. No, I'm an accountant by profession.
Wow.
So in my view, we need to do some pre-audit. And that system should be encouraged in all government expenditure lines. It's do not also always do this. It's not always for, or should not all be limited to expenditure that is now on table concerning electioneering, concerning renewal of IDs. It is a good thing to me than realizing when things are out of hand. So like this expenditure, before even the Parliament talks about it, we must get report from Internal Auditor General. They should do what we call pre-audit. Costs which are realigned versus what auditors say can be negotiated. Because these are costs proposed. What if we now talk about negotiated cost lines? Negotiated. Now, for example, new registration system. You want to buy a new registration system at 235 billion. What if we revamp the existing system to do the same work? Why do you buy a new one?
So we need to look into that as well.
Look at that. Me as an accountant, they can say, fine, we have option. For you are bringing option of buying a new one. But there is an existing one where we can buy some other softwares.
Let's say, what happened to it? Is it beyond repair that
yes,
we cannot?
We can add certain softwares. We revamp whatever we have. Would it need 235 billion? The answer may be no. Just I am doing simple audit even before I go into those details. Me, I can now audit here. Now we are talking about registering 370 billion. They will tell you they are going to procure consultancy firms to do this registration.
Exactly. Because apparently what's going to be happening is that unlike other elections, then the reason why Justice Simon Byabakama said that the Electoral Commission will need 1.3 trillion. This happens to be the most expensive election ever. Is that there's so many people who are in diaspora who are going to engage in this exercise.
Yes.
So we need to go register them and everything. I think that's where also there's so many people who are eligible voters, but they are not registered.
Yes.
Maybe that's the reason for
And
the
do
new
you know,
registration.
do you know what I'm talking about? Any service that will require procuring those international consultants to come and do our work. Now, what normally happens, even when these international consultants come, the vast of the work, the vast of the knowledge they apply is extracted from our local manpower here. They don't know what system.
They pick it from our...
They come and work with our people. There's you procure them, you give them huge millions of money.
Then the question
When
is...
they are here,
Yeah.
now they use the local manpower in the relevant ministries to say, you come work together so that we do this work better.
Don't we have consultants here, Doctor?
We have them. Even amongst our employees, there are people who are consultants. Let me give you an example. Today you procure a consultant, which is who is a consultant in the form of an international audit firm to come and do work here. Do you know that we have employees here
Yes.
who are highly learned to the extent that on their own they are even consultants? I'm a professional accountant. I have an audit firm. Now you procure my audit firm services, but when I'm also working, I may not even be having that audit firm operational, but when I'm already a professional accountant, but working as a principal auditor or a principal accountant with the government. So some of these things, at internal level, can we use the existing manpower? Ministry of ICT has consultants. Ministry of Finance has consultants working with the government. Can you use internal manpower? We give them extra allowances to do our work over and above their routine work. And you go away with these 370 billion to be eaten by international consultants. Those are the arguments. Because sometimes we fail ourselves due to these cost lines.
Have you, as legislators, looked into this, or you are about to?
I am telling you that my view is, for such huge sums of money, I am encouraging pre-audit. And the pre-audit comes up with such suggestions. Why is this cost exaggerated? Can't we have an alternative way of doing it at minimum cost? When you go into those arguments, you will find that substantially these costs will go down. They are exaggerated, they use international consultants, yet the output would be the same, even if we used our people around. But what happens now? When you don't have the money, they will tell you the project has failed.
Now, if I may ask, Honorable, who handles this? Which parliamentary committee handles this now? Who is going to be looking into this auditing and everything? Is there a committee?
I'm saying, you see, the funding institution is Ministry of Finance. Now, Ministry of Finance is supposed, that's why I'm telling you, it's the one that does budgeting. Now we are going to, first of all, they project the resource envelope for the nation. Alongside the resource envelope, they now give indicative planning figures to institutions and to ministries. So it's the Ministry of Finance overseeing that. It's the one that will tell you next financial year, this is what you should budget for. So when they are giving these figures out for people's budgeting and planning, and it is the same ministry that is supposed to oversee these expenditures.
Yes.
Auditor General comes in to assist them. That's why they have a department called Internal Auditor General's Office. So they are supposed to work. How do we minimize costs, but we get the same output? That should be the way forward, because we should accept the economy is doing badly. And when the economy is doing badly, it's now upon us to how do we survive within this economy that is doing badly. And one of the ways to survive, have major outputs achieved at the minimum cost possible.
Are you sensing our kind of misappropriation of funds somewhere? Are you smelling a rotten rat somewhere?
No, the word misappropriation, it comes in when you have already spent.
Because government departments and agencies have been victims of this. We've seen what has happened in the Trade Ministry.
This is vivid.
Yes, we've seen what has happened in UNBS.
First of all, we are talking about exaggeration of costs. You know, misappropriating funds starts with budgeting.
Okay.
This is where they start from. You approve a budget as government, as parliament, you have approved an expenditure.
Yeah, that's it.
So if the exaggeration is done at planning process, it is very hard to control it if it is already input. So can you control this from the budgeting process? Bring a cost, audit them, say no, you are exaggerating here. You can budget for less amount if you use this alternative route. That is me. That's how I look at it.
Is this what's going to be your suggestion? Because it's coming
This
to
is
Parliament
going
very
to
soon.
be my suggestion. And I'm telling you the truth. When they bring this on floor of Parliament, trust me, I will participate in giving these serious recommendations. And they are valid.
Yes.
Don't take omnibus approval of figures. That's where we go wrong. Because the moment you have approved, it's already in the system for payment. You know, we operate, they call it Integrated Financial Management System, IFMS.
Yes.
The system is set from approval of the budget. When the budget has been approved, it's eligible for expenditure now, for payment. That's why it should be captured, it should be managed at that level, in my view. So we are saying these activities cannot be avoided. Oh, that's okay. But even if they are not avoided, we can minimize the costs. How do we minimize the cost? Pre-audit. Pre-audit and getting alternative way of implementing this, either internally, we use the internal manpower, because Ugandans are highly land, than relying, or every time we rely on external consultants firms.
Is government concerned about these inflated costs by their agents, their officers?
Us as legislators, we need to tell them, to tell, because government, we are part of it.
Yes.
Government has three legislative, these three arms: judiciary, executive, and legislative, and where we are. So even if the executive is not thinking about it, for us as the legislative arm, which legislative arm is constitutionally mandated to do some constitutional roles, one of which is appropriation, and this is the issue of appropriation. The next is oversight. We appropriate, but we also do oversight. Now, during appropriation, be careful. Don't appropriate money with exaggerated cost lines. Why do that? So at the appropriation level, that's why we are talking about the budgeting and planning process. The cycle is starting in November, which November is tomorrow, I imagine.
Sometimes, Honorable, people think that maybe government has money, because sometimes we look at certain things and before you know it, money has been availed and you're like, but we thought there was no money, but now...
Government, being a government institution, has the prerogative. Where it is stuck, it goes into borrowing. We approve these borrowings, they come to Parliament. There is a committee for national economy. When the Minister of Finance is stuck and it wants to borrow money, they come, they make that proposal, they present it to the Committee of National Economy, which is a committee of Parliament. Thereafter, the committee scrutinizes the source of borrowing and where the money will be spent. They make a recommendation to Parliament. They bring a report to Parliament. We approve. Government, unlike private institutions, has the prerogative to borrow, because government is always there to stay. Today, NRM government is there. Another day, another government will never cease to exist. And therefore, there are those opportunities to borrow. That's why, where, for example, there is on the order paper I saw, which is going to be discussed this week, I was not in Parliament yesterday. There is a proposal to borrow money.
That is tomorrow.
To finance the national backbone infrastructure for ICT. Over $130 million.
Wow.
You understand?
Wow.
Now, that is not money that will be collected from URA. So government has chance to borrow. Government has chance to get grants.
Are you concerned of the debt ceiling, which keeps on increasing? We're talking about now over 100 trillion.
Yes, I'm concerned about the debt ceiling. But at the same time, I should also be concerned about service delivery not to be halted. We need to have that. In the event that our revenue flows are not doing well, should we close giving services to
Suppose this money that NIRA needs is appropriated, and after a year or two, NIRA is before the IGG. What are you going to say?
No. That is what
investigation.
That's what I was telling you. We are saying appropriating is okay. But to minimize these queries, don't wait to query after the occurrence. No. There must be internal checks and balances before appropriating. Because sometimes we also put these people who spend, we also put them at temptation. This saying of saying prevention is better than cure is key even in finance.
Sure.
Why are you making people vulnerable? Let them bring their budgets, scrutinize them. Because now you see these budgets are approved by Parliament. But the way they are approved, you bring documents, budget, you as an MP, you have not even scrutinized, you have not seen, you have not checked where there are exaggerations. The following day, the minister will read a ministerial policy statement. They say those in favor say aye, you say aye has it. But you have passed a wrong document. So it's also a challenge to us as Parliament to make sure at our different committee level, let's mean business when it comes to issues of finance.
Do you really mean?
I would even imagine that every committee should have somebody, 1-2 people who have this background. That's another problem. Every committee, because every committee overseeing any ministry requires money to operate. And we need these legislators spread all over these committees who can work with the other legislators with that finance background. Otherwise, if you are all there, others are educationists, others are doctors, others are lawyers, you may not look at these figures because these figures are prepared by accountants. For them, they will be smart, they will prepare these figures, they will put in notes. But if you are not careful, these notes will just be supplementing figures that are exaggerated. And at the end of the day, now the problem is you are forced to look for huge money to do an activity. You end up not doing it because you can't get that money. Yet, if these figures were normal, something would be done at even a lower cost.
Something could be done at even a lower cost. Wow. That's what Honorable Kimberly Frego is a Member of Parliament for Kasese Municipality, and we've been casting more light into government responsibility. Government is having a lot on their desk, and we're wondering whether they are able to handle this. Now we're talking about huge costs. NIRA needing 666 billion, but not only that, Electoral Commission needing 1.3 trillion Ugandan shillings. That's close to 2 trillions. Not only that, there are other conferences that are in the pipeline where government needs to spend a lot of money. But are costs just inflated deliberately, or this is the real thing, or the real deal we need? I mean, we've been discussing that. Unfortunately, we have to cut it from here. And I must say thank you so much, Honorable, for joining in the discussion.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe your lasting word to government. This is your camera.
First of all, I want to thank you for hosting me. And I am really happy that we have discussed this matter at a time when we are about to kickstart. No, we have started the budgeting and planning process for next financial year. And it has made me think, because I was not thinking about what do we do, because your questions have made my mind wake up to understand, okay, we may be having issues of how to raise the funds.
Yes, sir.
But before you reach there, even what you are raising the funds for, is it what is required? can't you, one of the way forward, first do check of these costs?
Thank you so much.
Because in government expenditure, it is vivid, it is, everybody knows it, that this sometimes, if not most cases, government people exaggerate costs.
Thank you so much. May the last one for people from Kasese. This is the camera.
Oh, to the people of Kasese district and the Kasese municipality, I wanted to thank them. Hadn't they voted me in this office, I wouldn't be here as their representative.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Honorable Kambale Frigo, their Member of Parliament, Kasese Municipality. Thanks for joining in. And Chintu Mutesa Senior is my name. We'll begin here sometime, someplace. Thanks for watching. Good morning. Bye.
Bethany TV.